I will be able to classify polygons. By the end of the lesson, I will be able to classify triangles and quadrilaterals. You're going to need 11 note cards. Here are the titles of those 11 note cards: congruent sides, acute angle, obtuse angle, right angle, acute triangle, obtuse triangle, right triangle, equilateral triangle, isosceles triangle, scalene triangle, and a regular polygon. The first note card that you need are congruent sides. So on the back side of congruent sides, you are going to write this: congruent sides are indicated with tick marks. Same number of tick marks means the same length of the side. So in figure 1, the triangle, the two sides that make the peak of the triangle are congruent. In the second shape, in the rectangle, the two sides on the top and bottom are congruent. They're the same length. They have the same number of tick marks. In the last triangle, or the square, right, all sides in those two shapes are congruent. They're same because they all the sides have one tick mark in the shape. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. Make sure you draw that picture. On the back side of a right angle is an internal angle which is equal to 90 degrees. If your right angle does not have this right here, then that means that it's not a right angle, even though it might look like it. An obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees, but less than 180. An acute triangle has 3 acute angles, so all 3 of the angles are smaller than 90 degrees. An obtuse triangle has 1 obtuse angle, so one of the angles in the triangle is larger than 90 degrees but smaller than 180. That also makes the other 2 angles acute. A right triangle has 1 right angle. The other 2 angles are acute as well. An equilateral triangle, all 3 sides are congruent, so they're all the same. Notice that all 3 of those sides have 1 tick mark, 1 red tick mark. That means that they are congruent. Their sides are the same. They are equal. That's why it's an equilateral triangle. An isosceles triangle has at least 2 sides that are congruent. Notice that the base of my triangle only has 1 tick mark, so that side length is different than the 2 side lengths that make the peak of my triangle. So this is an isosceles triangle. Scalene triangles have no congruent sides. So the left-hand side of my triangle has 1 tick mark, the bottom right-hand side has 2 tick marks, and the top has 3 tick marks. So that indicates that none of those sides are the same. A regular polygon has all sides congruent and all angles congruent. So some regular polygons are shown on the screen: a triangle, a square, a pentagon, a hexagon. There are others, but those are the 4 major regular polygons that you're going to see. On your notes page, you need to draw this diagram. It's going to be very important. And you also need to have a little space about naming triangles. So this triangle over here is triangle ABC. And how we write it is we write a triangle in front of A, B, and C. So it looks like this. This is how we mathematically write naming triangles. Now let's go back to the polygons. All of these shapes are polygons, right? A quadrilateral has 4 sides. I'm right here. A quadrilateral has 4 sides. A trapezoid has exactly 1 pair of parallel sides. Notice that it also has 4 sides. So this trapezoid is a trapezoid and it's also a quadrilateral, right? A parallelogram has 4 sides. So it is a quadrilateral, but what makes it specifically a parallelogram is that both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. So the top is parallel with the bottom, and the right-hand side is parallel with the left-hand side. So it is a parallelogram, but it's also a quadrilateral. A rhombus has 4 congruent sides. It's also a parallelogram, and it's also a quadrilateral. So a rhombus can be three things. It can be a rhombus, a parallelogram, or a quadrilateral. On the other side, a rectangle has four 90-degree angles. The rectangle can be a rectangle, it can be a parallelogram, and it also can be a quadrilateral. And lastly, the square. The square has four angles and four congruent sides. So the square can be a square. It can also be a rhombus. It can also be a rectangle. It can also be a parallelogram. It can also be a quadrilateral. So the farther away you go from quadrilateral, you are yourself. And if you backtrack along these arrows, right, you're everything that you hit along the way. So a square can be a rhombus, a parallelogram, a quadrilateral. A trapezoid cannot be any of these things because it's up here by itself.